issues will now redound to you just as they do to every other married couple in the country. That said, if you live in a state that does not allow same-sex marriage, even after these rulings today, you still cannot get married. This ruling does nothing for you. Yet. Today, during MSNBC's coverage of these rulings today, Chad Griffin from the Human Rights Campaign was asked what he plans to do next now that these cases have been won in Washington, the DOMA case and the California Prop 8 case. And Mr. Griffin said he was going to go first to California with the California plaintiffs to celebrate in California, but then tomorrow he was going somewhere else to get back to work.
It also says to that young person in Hope, Arkansas, or, still in Altoona, Pennsylvania, that marriage equality is coming to them very soon. This entire team is on our way to California to celebrate tonight, and tomorrow morning I wake up and fly to Salt Lake City, Utah, to a red state.
To Salt Lake City, to Utah. Utah, where same-sex marriage is most assuredly not legal. The reason you go there next, though, is because here's what's going to happen. Some happy couple, looks like Sean and Steven maybe, right? Some happy couple who's married in New York or married in Iowa is going to get transferred to Utah for work. And that couple with their kids pay their taxes and they own property together and whose lives are totally interwoven thanks to all the normal married boring stuff that interweaves our lives. That couple's going to move to Utah. Maybe they want to move to Utah. Maybe they got to. It's a work transfer, whatever. But then what happens when they get there? What? Utah unmarries them? No, not here. It doesn't apply. You're married nationally, but you're not married in this state? How does that work? That does not work. And then this hypothetical couple arriving in Utah and realizing this ridiculous situation, they will sue. They will say, hey, we're not looking for a fight here, but this does not make sense. Either we're married or we're not. We cannot be legally married and not legally married at the same time. It can't be that the federal government and the state we came from and the state we got married say that we're legally married, but now that we're here, it doesn't count. It doesn't work. So they will sue. And you know what? They will win because of what happened today. It was 10 years ago today. The same justice who wrote today's decision striking down DOMA wrote the opinion in the last huge gay rights case before the court, which was Lawrence v. Texas. That case declared sodomy laws to be unconstitutional. But the conservative justice, Antonin Scalia, was having none of it. His side lost the argument, but Antonin Scalia wrote a dissent in the Lawrence case that day that has become legendary over time just for its sheer level of rage. Aside from the sheer joy, though, of seeing Justice Scalia rip through page after page of bigamy, incest, adultery, fornication, bestiality, deviant sexual intercourse, obscenity, masturbation. Aside from the sheer prurient pleasure of seeing Justice Scalia exclamation point himself through that very angry dissent. That very angry dissent 10 years ago did get one thing really, really right. Right there on page 15 of the angriest dissent of all time, he nailed it. This is from 10 years ago. Justice Scalia was furious about this. He said, the Texas statute undeniably seeks to further the belief of its citizens that certain forms of sexual behavior are immoral and unacceptable. The Bowers decision held that this was a legitimate state interest, but the court today reaches the opposite conclusion. The Texas statute, it says, furthers no legitimate state interest. If moral disapprobation of homosexual conduct is no legitimate state interest, then what justification could there possibly be for denying the benefits of marriage to homosexual couples? Right. I think I feel differently about that than you do, but right. Justice Scalia raised this point in horror 10 years ago today, on the last big gay rights case that had its majority opinion written by Justice Kennedy. And he was saying, you realize this ruling means gay people are going to be able to get married, right? You realize that? Yes, Justice Scalia, we realize that. And indeed, Justice Kennedy today cited that 10-year-old ruling twice when he wrote today that the federal government has to recognize all marriages that are recognized in the states, even if some of them have the gay. But on this specific issue of Utah, what happens now in states that do not recognize all marriages? Everybody's been saying all day today that the court is essentially silent on Utah. The court doesn't say anything about states where same-sex marriage isn't legal. It's not really true. Once again, just like he did 10 years ago, Justice Scalia is pounding his chest and raging into the night angrily that his battle against gay rights is over. It's over because of this latest ruling. When that hypothetical couple that moved to Utah sues to try to make even Utah recognize that their marriage that is recognized by the federal government should be recognized by Utah too. When that happens, Justice Scalia says that today's ruling is going to give them everything they need to win that case and make Utah recognize same-sex marriages as well. He said in his dissent today, the view that this court will take about state prohibition of same-sex marriage is indicated beyond mistaking in today's opinion. He quotes all the court's reasoning about why the federal government has to recognize same-sex marriages, and then he says this: how easy it is, indeed how inevitable, to reach the same conclusion with regard to state laws denying same-sex couples marital status. He says it is only a pretense that today's prohibition of laws excluding same-sex marriage is confined to the federal government. He says the other shoe will drop about state laws banning same-sex marriage, quote, later, comma, maybe next term. You think he's right? He was right 10 years ago today. He was right the last time. If today's rulings mean not just that marriage equality will be true again in California, and that 100 million Americans will live in states that afford not just skim milk second-class marriages, but full-class marriages, even if you're gay. If it doesn't mean just that, but it also means beyond even those things. By the way, this also paves the way for all 50 states to recognize marriages equally, fully equally, much to Antonin Scalia's evident horror. Well, then today is an even bigger day than it seemed at first. Chris Perry and Sandy Steyer were two of the named plaintiffs in the California case, in the Prop 8 case that was decided today alongside DOMA. Watch how they put it.
We believe from the very beginning that the importance of this case was to send a message to the children of this country that you are just as good as everybody else, no matter who you love, no matter who your parents love. And today we can go back to California and say to our own children, all 4 of our boys, your family is just as good as everybody else's family. We love you as much as anybody else's parents love their kids, and we're going to be equal.
We thank the justices for letting us get married in California, but that's not enough. It's got to go nationwide, and we can't wait for that day. It's not just about us. It's about kids in the South. It's about kids in Texas, and it's about kids everywhere. And we really, really want to take this fight and take it all the way and get equality for everyone.
Everyone in this entire country. It's about kids in the South. It's about kids in Texas. Not just theoretically in the future. That's what this ruling today was about as well. It is underappreciated today, but this went way further than everybody's giving it credit for. Chris Perry and Sandy Steyer join us next.